when Joanna won the Golden Sale Award for Best Young Architect. The industry giant, Starry River Design Institute, made a rare exception by creating an extra position for her partner. Everyone thought that spot would be mine, but in the end, the one who walked through Starry River's glass doors with her was an intern parachuted in from nowhere, Kevin. Starry River is Kevin's dream starting point. He deserves this opportunity more, Joanna explained. At the time, I was just starting out, inexperienced. Joining such a prestigious firm would have only sparked gossip. So instead, she signed a contract on my behalf with a small design studio in the South, and she promised, once the project lands, we'll get married. But later, I boarded a flight overseas. When we met again, Joanna stared at the faint ring mark on my finger, her eyes bloodshot. Why? You promised, you said you'd marry only me. Chapter 1. 7 years after I left City A, I heard Joanna's name for the first time again. It happened at the crowded boarding lounge of JFK Airport in New York. The young woman sitting beside me had already stolen glances at me 5 times before she finally spoke. Hesitantly, James? I instinctively looked up. Her unfamiliar face showed clear uncertainty. It is you, right? Do you remember me? We were in the same year at the City A School of Design. Seeing a flicker of recognition on my face, she warmed up instantly. City A School of Design, my alma mater. She claimed to be my classmate. She said we had helped each other during the setup for our graduation exhibition. It was clear, she was trying hard to stir my memories, but those college days had long faded into a blurred backdrop. Faces and names had melted away with time, no matter how hard I tried. I couldn't piece the woman in front of me into any fragment of memory. She didn't seem embarrassed though. Instead, she quickly shifted gears. Doesn't matter if you don't remember me, but you must remember Joanna, right? Joanna. That name hit like a cold needle, piercing the edge of my nerves without warning. She didn't miss the slight change in my expression. She jumped on it. You two were the golden couple of our class. Everyone thought you'd go the distance. When Joanna won the Golden Sale Award, Starry River bent over backwards to snatch her, let her bring her partner in too. So, you joined Starry River with her, didn't you? How far have you two gotten now? Are you married? Is this a business trip? Her rapid-fire questions rained down on me, but I didn't hear a word. Only that name churned up a storm in my mind, caught off guard by the intensity of her small talk. I was saved by the boarding announcement that came just in time. I stood up hastily. Sorry, I have to go. She looked stunned as I quickly disappeared into the crowd. Chapter 2. Escape did not bring peace. Instead, as the plane roared into ascent, and I tried to sleep through the long transoceanic flight, the weight on my chest only grew heavier. Every time I closed my eyes, the word Joanna would silently explode in the dark, like a long-forgotten spell. Once triggered, the past came surging in like a breached flood. Joanna was my childhood friend. She was also the once-in-a-decade genius of City A's School of Design. During our 4 years in college, she swept up every emerging design award, both domestic and international. In the graduation season 7 years ago, she stunned the industry with her Cloud Library proposal and took home the Golden Sale Award. Starry River Design Institute and another giant, Hanhai, competed fiercely to win her over. Just like that girl at the airport said. In order to land her, both top institutions offered irresistible conditions, and even promised Joanna could name one additional person to join without any exam or interview. At the time, she hadn't said a word yet, and the wave of congratulations had already drowned me. Everyone in the school knew Joanna and I were childhood sweethearts, deeply in love. Now, thinking back to the envy and excitement in that boy's eyes, I feel nothing but a faint and absurd chill. Turns out, even to this day, there are still people who don't know. The one who stood beside Joanna and walked into Starry River wasn't me. 7 hours in the air. 6.5 were spent tossed in a daze. It wasn't until we landed and I turned my phone back on that a familiar voice pulled me briefly from that swamp. Hey, you've landed. Yeah, just got off the plane. Your voice sounds off. What's wrong? Lillian picked up the difference with just a few syllables. Her sensitivity made me smile, but I had no intention of mentioning the airport encounter. Nothing. Just tired from the long flight. Then go get some rest at the hotel. Adjust to the time zone. Okay. I hung up and got into the hotel shuttle. The jet lag hit harder than expected. I was completely exhausted, yet wide awake, just when I was about to finally drift off. Simon, my friend from both high school and college, called. James, back in the country, and didn't even say a word. He sounded thrilled. I was briefly stunned. How did you know? The alumni group is going nuts. What? I hadn't logged into the college alumni chat group in years. Took me a while to even remember the password. The group had been silent since graduation, but 2 days ago, someone posted a photo of me. Underneath, the comments read, "Shocking. Ran into our class god James at JFK Airport. Almost didn't recognize him. Had to call his name to be sure. His presence is insane. Full-on elite vibes. The photo was a side profile of me resting with my eyes closed while waiting to board. The background was exactly the gate from that day. As for who posted it, there was no need to guess. That long-dead group exploded because of one photo. It's really him. He hasn't changed one bit. Was he alone? Where's Joanna? Didn't they come together? As I scrolled down, Joanna's name once again pierced my vision. Just like always. No matter where. No matter when. Whenever one of us is mentioned, the other's name always follows like a shadow. Etched into the bone. Impossible to separate. Chapter 3. No. He was alone. The girl who posted the photo replied. Some were confused. Some puzzled. Until a message popped up. You guys didn't know. Joanna and James broke up right after graduation. It completely ignited the fire of gossip. Huh. What happened? They broke up. Joanna adored James. She just let him go. Around this topic, the group chat exploded with thousands of new messages within seconds. By the time I saw the first one, I had already lost interest in reading any further. Simon was still on the other end of the call, excitedly planning. Which city are you in now? Beijing. What a coincidence. I'm here too. We have to meet. My treat. Back in college, Simon was one of the few who truly understood the tangled mess between Joanna and me. He didn't like Joanna, and despised Kevin even more. I didn't refuse. I agreed. And that simple yes led me, in just a few short days of being back in the country, to unexpectedly run into the very person who once shattered my calm, Joanna. Honestly, I was caught off guard. I hadn't expected Joanna's private gathering to be at the exact same restaurant. As soon as I saw Simon, he pulled me into a tight hug. Damn, I missed you. He was just as bold and loud as he was in college, hooking his arm around me affectionately as we walked in, chatting nonstop, until he mentioned, you have no idea how disappointed the old professor was when you didn't join Han High. These past few years while you were abroad, he kept telling the new students about you. Man, all this for Joanna. Really worth it. His voice abruptly cut off. His step stopped cold, following his suddenly stiff gaze. My heart clenched as if seized by an invisible hand. Joanna. This was the first time in 7 years that I had seen Joanna again. In those long years of growing up on my own, I had imagined countless times what the Joanna of 20 would look like now. And now, the woman standing in front of me was slowly overlapping with the image in my memory. Chapter 4. Dark gray cashmere sweater, black trousers, those cool, distant eyes still the same. Gone was the youthful sharpness, replaced by composure and restraint. The only thing unchanged was the inherent aloofness in her bones. Back then, I always thought Joanna was like a snow-capped mountain, distant and untouchable. Now looking at her again, that chill seemed even deeper. Simon glanced at me, then at her. The once spacious corridor suddenly froze with this unexpected encounter. The air was so thin it was suffocating. What broke the silence was a warm male voice. Joanna, everyone's waiting for you. Kevin stepped out from behind Joanna and walked to her naturally. Sensing something off, he followed her gaze. The moment our eyes met, a flash of shock passed through his eyes. His lips moved slightly. James? I could hear the tension in his voice, and found it completely unnecessary. After all, he was the one who had won back then. I was the one who quietly exited the stage. In that moment, I even had the absurd urge to say, if that girl from the airport had been there, I could have pointed at Kevin and told her, the one who walked into Starry River beside Joanna wasn't me. It was him, Kevin, before the age of 20. How close were Joanna and I? Anyone who knew us knew. Wherever James was, Joanna would be within 3 meters. We were born in the same year, same month. We were inseparable since diaper days. The first imported chocolate Joanna ever received, she gave it to me. She once fought the class bully for mocking my blueprint. Even the first time I collapsed from an all-nighter working on designs. It was Joanna who carried me to the school clinic, running back and forth, before the age of 20. Joanna had never been absent from any important moment of my life. We were so certain of each other, that everyone naturally believed we were meant to be, and I had no doubt either. Until junior year, Kevin appeared. He dropped into Joanna's elite design team as an exchange student. The first time I noticed him was during the midterm presentation. That unassuming newcomer ranked second in the department. His score was only 0.5 points behind the first-place student, Joanna. TCH. He almost caught up to your girl, Simon had joked back then, biting his straw and pointing at their names on the bulletin board. I didn't take it seriously. Relax. He'll never reach Joanna's level. Only later did I realize that catching up meant something else entirely, and I was completely, utterly wrong. Chapter 5. At some point, Kevin became a name that couldn't be avoided in conversations between Joanna and me. It was Kevin who pointed out a critical structural flaw in Joanna's proposal. It was him who first outscored Joanna in a joint bidding competition. Or perhaps, it was the first time the two of them represented the Academy in an international competition, clashing fiercely, yet working in perfect sync. Sweeping gold and silver, returning with full honors. The congratulatory poster featuring them stayed up on the Academy bulletin board for an entire month. Kevin, whom I had never truly taken seriously, was now inch by inch consuming the space I once occupied in Joanna's world. Until graduation season, Joanna said to me, "James, I want to go to Starry River." By then, we had already grown tense over Kevin several times, with Cold Wars still unresolved, but I still supported her. "Sure, you deserve the best." It wasn't until later that I found out Starry River wasn't her dream, it was Kevin's. On the day she was granted that precious partner entry slot, she looked me in the eyes and said, "James, Starry River is Kevin's dream starting point. He needs this opportunity more than you do. Let him have it." And now, watching Joanna and Kevin standing side by side, they exuded the same elite presence, the same aura of professional refinement. Compared to 7 years ago, their chemistry seemed even stronger, especially Kevin, in the moment our eyes met. His arm naturally looped through Joanna's. "James, you're back. Why didn't you say anything in advance?" The unease in his eyes had long since vanished, replaced with a polite detachment and a subtle air of superiority, a quiet, calculated declaration of possession. During the years I was abroad, it wasn't as if I heard nothing. In the first 2 years after I left the country, scattered updates about Joanna and Kevin still reached me now and then. They entered Starry River together. Assigned to the same top-tier project team, they carried on their campus brilliance, sweeping awards from domestic and international design competitions, climbing the ranks rapidly. People praised them as the perfect match, side by side, a power couple in the industry. How ironic. Once upon a time, those exact words were used to describe me and Joanna. Only now, the stage had changed, the players too. Once I was no longer by Joanna's side. The one who stood beside her, her equal, was someone else. I suddenly recalled something Kevin once said to me. "You just got lucky, growing up with her. If we had started from the same place, you wouldn't be the one standing next to her." Back then, I had scoffed at him, but now, it seems, he wasn't wrong. Chapter 6. Simon was one of the few who knew the truth. He never liked Joanna, and disliked Kevin even more. Simon threw an arm around my shoulder and raised an eyebrow at Kevin. "And you and James close or something?" Kevin's face stiffened. He looked at Joanna, silently pleading for her help, hoping she would, like so many times before, come to his rescue. But from the moment we crossed paths, Joanna had looked like her soul had been sucked out. She stood frozen in place, her eyes locked tightly on me. Simon rolled his eyes and tugged me away. "Let's go. Different place." She wanted to avoid this scene even more than I did, but Joanna was far more persistent than either of us expected. After we left the restaurant, Joanna's car actually followed us, while Simon and I ate. Her black sedan stayed parked across the street. I recognized the license plate. The digits were a combination of our shared birthday. Through the windshield, I saw her behind the wheel. She didn't come forward. She just sat there silently, like a frozen, mute sentinel. I frowned. On the way back to the hotel, that car trailed us like a shadow. When we reached the hotel entrance, I finally couldn't take it anymore. I got out, walked to her car, and knocked on the window with my knuckle. "Joanna, you do know that stalking is illegal, right?" The window rolled down. Joanna looked up. Only then did I see the redness around her eyes, and the tears she was struggling to hold back. "James, you're so cruel." Her eyes were rimmed in red. I suddenly remembered sophomore year, when my design concept was stolen by a teammate, and Joanna was furious. That was the first time she got into a physical fight. No skill, just raw fury. She beat the guy black and blue. His parents raised hell with the school, even threatened to have her expelled. When the professor asked her to apologize, Joanna stood firm. "I did nothing wrong. If anyone bullies James, they deal with me." That night, her uncle whipped her with a belt, leaving bruises all over her back. I went to see her, and couldn't stop crying. Joanna gritted her teeth through the pain, clumsily trying to wipe my tears. "Why are you crying? Does it hurt?" "No." Liar. Cold sweat had soaked her hairline. Back then, Joanna never made a sound, no matter how much it hurt. And now, she tilted her head slightly. And from the moment we reunited, her eyes were filled with unshed tears. Moisture clung to the corners of her reddened eyes. She looked deeply wronged. The tip of her nose, her eyes, even the rims of her ears tinged with pink. She said I was cruel, that I could truly go 7 years without a single word. And yes, Who would have thought that the boy who once couldn't stand half a day without Joanna could go 7 years completely cut off from her? When I left for the US to study design, everyone thought I was just acting out. No one believed that I could really sever 20 years of deep, blood-bound connection with Joanna. Joanna didn't believe it either. She came to find me, holding contracts from several design studios in the South. I've looked at all of them. They're small but have a good culture, perfect for you to start. James, stop being like this. Let's stay together. Okay. By then, she had already given the spot to Kevin. Those who once congratulated me went silent, their eyes now filled with sympathy and pity. Joanna hugged me tightly and promised, once the project is approved, let's get married. Okay. She knew exactly what I cared about. I couldn't leave Joanna because I loved her deeply, completely. I once believed, with absolute certainty, that I could only ever be with Joanna. 20 years ago, and 20 years later, it had to be her. But, turns out, even a love that once burned into the bones doesn't last forever. I looked at Joanna calmly. If it had been a long, long time ago, and she looked at me like this, saying these words, I would have ached for her beyond measure. But now, my heart was still. I didn't even want to stand in front of a hotel, surrounded by strangers, and rehash the past or argue over right and wrong. I raised my hand and signaled to hotel security. This woman's been following me. Please keep an eye on her. The security guard's expression immediately turned serious. I turned and walked into the brightly lit lobby. Without looking back. Chapter 7. 2 days later, I returned to my alma mater to visit my mentor, Professor Wu. The old professor was overjoyed to see me. He held my hand tightly, his gaze warm and full of emotion. How have you been? Still working in design? Back in my sophomore year, I hit a creative block and fell into deep self-doubt. It was Professor Wu who noticed my unique sensitivity to spatial deconstruction and strongly encouraged me to explore avant-garde architecture. In the end, I found my own direction on that path. Throughout all 4 years of university, he gave me everything he had. When I later decided to study abroad and reached out to professors overseas, his recommendation and connections were instrumental. After hearing about my breakup with Joanna, he had truly been worried I might fall apart and give up design entirely. I am, Professor. I never stopped. He is the person I'm most grateful to. For this trip back, I had prepared a special surprise for him. Professor, I came back this time because I was invited by the National Architecture Society to chair a forum at the annual summit. I handed him a refined invitation letter. From confusion to shock, Professor Wu's expression changed rapidly. The Society, forum chair. His hand, holding the invitation, trembled slightly. His gaze shifted from astonishment to deep satisfaction. A soft mist gradually clouding his eyes. I knew it. I knew it. James, you have a spark. You were always the student I believed in the most. When you gave up the Han-Hai offer for Joanna, I was really afraid. My chest tightened with emotion. Professor, he wiped the corners of his eyes, full of heartfelt reflection. When you gave up Han-Hai and the chance for a direct PhD abroad, I felt regret for a long time, but now, thank goodness, thank goodness. The more he wiped his tears, the more they came. I couldn't hold back the sting in my nose either. You'll always be my guiding light. We talked for a long time. He gladly agreed to attend the forum. Before we parted, he studied me closely, then suddenly said, James, your design style now, it has a broader, more powerful energy than before. I understood what he meant. I smiled gently. Just as you wished, Professor. Receiving that answer, Professor Wu nodded in satisfaction. He looked at me the way he had years ago, warm, wise, and full of care. Congratulations, and may you be blessed. I will be. Chapter 8. After the visit, I returned to the hotel. The same security guard from before spotted me and hurried over. Sir, your friend is here again. Friend. I followed his gaze. It was that familiar car once more. This time, my brows furrowed even deeper. The guard looked helpless. She comes every day, doesn't do anything, just sits there. They had questioned her earlier. Joanna had shown an old photo of us from our school days. Said she meant no harm. The guards had watched her for 2 days and confirmed she never did anything extreme. She didn't approach, didn't disturb. Just stayed parked outside the hotel every night like clockwork. She would leave at dawn, likely to return to the Design Institute. Sir, is there some misunderstanding between you two? The guard asked tactfully. I shook my head. I don't know her well, but she's been here for days. And she doesn't look well today, the guard said carefully. I looked up and locked eyes with Joanna. Indeed, compared to the last couple of days, her face was pale, and there were dark circles under her eyes. It had been days of extreme heat. The guards were worried something might happen. Should we call the police? He suggested. I was just about to nod. A white car sped in and screeched to a halt. Kevin jumped out, face full of panic, and rushed toward Joanna's car. He yanked the door open, speaking to her urgently. Then he shot me a sharp, cutting look. I turned away. No need. The person taking her home is here. I didn't give Joanna's stalking much thought. Whatever we had, it was over. This trip home was about one thing, the forum. It was my first time holding a significant role on a domestic academic stage. I couldn't afford distractions. What I didn't expect was that my reunion with Joanna would still have aftershocks. Joanna had fallen ill. She was fairly well known in the industry, so her sudden illness drew attention. Whispers began to spread quietly. No one knew where it started. But someone claimed Joanna's illness was related to me. Sigh. Joanna's so hopelessly in love, always stumbling over James. What can you do? James is her kryptonite. You guys forgot she got into a fight over him. They've been separated for so long. Why can't she move on? She still loves him. Obviously. Joanna loved James like crazy. When he left the country without a word, she was completely wrecked. Exactly. He just came back and she's already been camped out for days, scared he'll vanish again. The once quiet alumni group was noisy again. Thanks to me and Joanna's past. Old classmates were acting like they were binge-watching a never-ending emotional drama. New rumors came out every day. Some said how inseparable we had been. Some said that after I left, Joanna was so out of it she almost ruined a project. And in the end, someone always asked, why is he really back? Could it be, for Joanna? By the time these rumors reached my ears, the forum was in its final prep phase. Around the same time, I received a call from Lillian. She was checking in as usual, after I told her everything was going smoothly. Her voice softened with apology. Sorry I can't be there with you this time. I could hear the disappointment in her tone and reassured her gently. Miss Lillian, it's only 2 weeks apart. 2 weeks is long, she murmured. I miss you. We've never been apart this long. That was true. Whenever I had major events abroad, she would always rearrange her schedule to be with me. This time, a key merger deal had her completely tied up. I said gently, once the forum ends, I'll head straight back to you. Okay, I'll pick you up. All right. That call lifted my spirits considerably, but not long after. An old friend who knew both Joanna and me messaged me. James, I heard you're back. Joanna's really sick. Can you go see her? Chapter 9. I frowned. The word no was already typed out. Then another message came through. Even if you've been apart for 7 years, does it have to be total silence forever? Maybe not. After some thought, I bought a bouquet of white chrysanthemums and went to the hospital. Joanna's room wasn't hard to find. Before knocking, I heard Kevin's voice, tight with emotion and tears. How long are you going to keep ruining yourself for him? He doesn't care whether you live or die. You've been sick this long, has he shown up even once? My life is none of your business. Joanna's voice was hoarse and cold. Kevin grew anxious and angry, until my knock on the door cut through. He turned and saw me, his expression darkening. James, what the hell are you doing here? Joanna looked up sharply. There were others in the room too. Unfamiliar faces. Probably colleagues from Starry River Design Institute. When they heard Kevin's words, their eyes all turned toward me. So he's the James Joanna can't forget. He's the one who made her stand in the rain and get sick, right? I ignored their probing stares. I walked into the room and set the bouquet down on the bedside table. Heard you were sick, just came to check on you. That old friend was right. Joanna and I hadn't reached the point of becoming complete strangers. We grew up together. After all, time had passed, and I had a new life now. There was no need to dwell on the past. This visit was simply my way of honoring the youth we once shared. That's how I saw it. Joanna didn't. When she saw me approaching, a spark of light flared in her dim eyes. James, she called softly, then remembered there were others present. You all can go now. The visitors began to file out, but Kevin remained rooted. Joanna looked at him. You too. Kevin stiffened, glanced at Joanna, then shot me a vicious glare. Finally, he pressed his lips together and reluctantly left. The room fell silent. The first time Joanna and I were alone in 7 years. Once, we had endless things to talk about. Now, we stood wordless. Joanna motioned for me to sit. I didn't. I stood one step away from the bed. Joanna, don't get the wrong idea. I just came to see how you were. Now that I see you're okay, I'm leaving. I turned. James. Joanna called out urgently. I looked back and saw her pale, fragile face. You still hate me, don't you? What I said that day, you're cruel, was out of anger. You're not cruel at all. I just missed you so much. Her voice cracked, rough and choked with tears. Her eyes reddened again. 7 years. James, I haven't gone a single day without thinking about you. You have no idea how happy I was when I heard you were back. That photo of me at the airport in the alumni chat. She had looked at it countless times, zooming in, zooming out, her fingers brushing the screen, until the day at the restaurant. When we finally met again, her heart had finally settled. She had so much to say. She waited outside the hotel night after night, just to be sure. I had really come back, and now, here in this room, I was finally talking to her. I used to be the one who couldn't stop talking around Joanna. This was the first time the roles were reversed. If I were 20 again, I would have been overjoyed. But now, listening to her whisper how much she missed me, my heart felt nothing. Joanna, staying up night after night outside a hotel isn't devotion, it's harassment. And for the record, I don't miss you. I'm doing very well now. I came back purely for work. Running into you was pure coincidence. If I could avoid it, I would. My blunt, cold words extinguished the light that had just lit up in Joanna's eyes. She stared at me stubbornly, trying to find even the slightest trace of hesitation in my expression. But there was none. I was completely calm. It's getting late. I'm leaving. And by the way, please clear up those rumors in the alumni group. With that, I turned to go. Behind me, Joanna let out a raspy, anguished cry. I don't believe you, James. I don't believe it. If you really didn't care at all, why did you come back? Joanna thought she knew me better than anyone. At that moment, all I felt was that she was being unreasonable. Chapter 10. I had just stepped out of the hospital room when I was called again. James. Kevin walked straight toward me, his face cold. Can we talk? I looked at him, puzzled. Kevin and I weren't even acquaintances, barely knew each other. There was really nothing to talk about, except Joanna. Of course, Kevin was here because of her. You avoided her before, and now suddenly show up at the hospital. James, what exactly are you trying to do? His first words were accusatory, clearly agitated. I felt baffled. Didn't I say already? I was just visiting the sick. You vanish for 7 years, then show up and stir everything up like a storm. I never realized you were so calculated. He was just like Joanna. Neither of them believed me. His eyes were cold, devoid of warmth. Then I understood. Kevin had seen the rumors in the alumni group too. He was convinced I was playing hard to get, that I had returned for Joanna. The suspicion and hostility in his eyes were a far cry from the quiet, reserved Kevin I remembered from college. Back then, Kevin rarely spoke. He barely joined in small talk. Except when discussing design with Joanna. That was the only time he came alive, eloquent, sharp-edged, confident. Everyone said his contrast made him charming, but in my few encounters with him, I always felt something subtle in the way he looked at me. When he found out I was focusing on avant-garde design, he once asked in front of Joanna, I envy you guys. You get to be imaginative. We structure people are always constrained. I thought he was just curious, so I explained patiently. Structure is the skeleton of architecture. It's just as full of creative potential. Still, at least you have the freedom to express yourselves artistically. Guys like me, from average families, who just study hard, we only have one narrow road, I said. But Joanna combines structure and aesthetics beautifully. That's because she has talent. A lot of privileged people can afford to pursue pure art the way you do, can't they? Kevin shot back. I didn't quite understand what he was getting at, but the tone was uncomfortable. I had never considered myself someone chasing pure art. Joanna and I had promised each other we'd create spaces that balanced utility and beauty. Professor Wu had also told me I had talent and the will to push through as long as I kept at it. I could carve out a path in practical, artistic design. But no matter what I said to Kevin, he never let it go. Ah, I see. You two must be really in sync. But do you really understand Joanna's pursuit of extreme structural aesthetics? A lot of art types are like that, always talking about integration. But really, it's like encouraging underachievers, right? Kevin smirked. There was a forced smile on his face, but nothing behind it. I didn't understand it at the time, why Kevin seemed to resent the artistic path. But later, I realized, it wasn't the path he resented, it was me. His bias turned into quiet hostility, and in that final, crucial year before graduation, his veiled malice followed me everywhere, like a snake in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike, and the root of it all was Joanna. Chapter 11. You left already. Why did you come back? Do you have any idea how Joanna made it through these past 7 years? Kevin questioned me furiously. He said that during the 7 years I was gone, Joanna lived like a machine. There was one time, during a rushed construction project, she worked non-stop on site for 3 days and nights. She suffered acute gastric bleeding and almost didn't make it. While in the ICU, unconscious, she kept murmuring my name. In the end, it was Kevin who stayed by her bedside, calling her name over and over, pulling her back from the brink. I was the one who stood by her through the hardest times. And now, the moment you show up, she can't look at anything but you. Are you trying to kill her again? Kevin stared at me, eyes burning with anger. It was clear, he truly loved Joanna deeply. In the alumni group, aside from gossip about me, there were also plenty of sighs about Kevin's years of loyal devotion. Listening to him now, I wasn't sure if I should be angry or amused. Perhaps the sarcasm in my eyes got under his skin. Kevin grew even more agitated. What the hell are you laughing at? Kevin, isn't all this exactly what you wanted from the start? You didn't get what you wanted, so now it's my fault. Kevin's furious expression froze. I stared back coldly. I still remembered what he once said to me. You just got lucky, growing up with her. If we had started from the same place, you might not be the one standing next to her. I realized Kevin liked Joanna during our senior year. That was when Joanna lost a sketchbook. It wasn't valuable, but inside were countless little doodles where she scribbled Joanna and James together. Later, I saw that sketchbook in Kevin's possession. The doodles were still there, only now James had been aggressively crossed out, and the margins were filled with the name Kevin. After I confronted him, Kevin no longer bothered to hide his hostility toward me. He said, "Just give me time, and I'll be the one standing beside Joanna." So he had already decided to enter the same firm as her, after he found out about the promise Joanna and I made. Right before our graduation defense, his hard drive suddenly failed, every file and backup gone. Even now, I still can't be certain whether it was an accident or intentional. All I know is, after that, Joanna feared he wouldn't graduate and poured all her energy into helping him rebuild his models and redraw his plans. She stayed up all night with him, on those nights when Kevin broke down, crying that he'd fail. In the end, everything settled. Kevin missed the Starry River offer by a hair. He broke down in tears. Everyone felt sorry for him, including Joanna. It was that very day, Joanna said to me, "James, Kevin needs this opportunity more than you do." I didn't keep silent. I told Joanna something wasn't right, but back then, all she could see was Kevin's misfortune. She even said to me, "You're too inexperienced. Going to Starry River would only make people question your qualifications." I had grown up with Joanna. She had never looked down on me like that. That was the moment I knew Kevin had won. I chose to leave, swearing to cut all ties with Joanna. As for making a name for myself later in the international architecture world, I never once sought to boast about it. Chapter 12. So what? Was I wrong? Giving that spot to you would have been a complete waste of resources. So now you're back just to show off that Joanna still can't forget you. Kevin shouted, humiliated and furious. I realized then, both Joanna and Kevin had completely misunderstood the reason for my return. Actually, it wasn't just them. Many people thought the same. It's not that I didn't want to explain, because soon, they would all understand. That night, Professor Wu posted an update on WeChat. A former student screenshotted it and shared it in the alumni group. It exploded instantly. The caption read, "Proud. 7 years ago, I regretted your decision to give up the Hanhai offer. 7 years later, you return as a pioneer in avant-garde architecture, chairing the National Society's forum. As your teacher, I couldn't be prouder." Attached were a photo of the forum invitation and a poster for my keynote speech. The poster featured my name, photo, and one of my representative works. Even those unfamiliar with architecture instantly recognized the person in the picture, me. Professor Wu just posted this. That's James. He came back to chair the National Architecture Society's annual forum. That's insane. I remember he was already really creative in college. Wait, didn't someone say he only ended up at a small studio because he wasn't that talented? And now they're saying he gave up Hanhai. What's going on? The screenshot ignited a storm of discussion. Naturally curious alumni began digging up my name online. After days of gossiping about my past with Joanna, they finally turned their eyes to the 7 years I spent abroad. It's true, James was the last student taken in by Pritzker Prize winner Hall. 2 years ago, his Museum of Light and Shadow won an International Gold Award. He's a top-tier figure on international architecture forums. Tons of major journals have interviewed him. You guys in the structural group probably don't know, James had the highest conceptual design score in our year. He got offers from Hanhai and multiple top international universities. Finally, someone from my design cohort spoke up. In our year, conceptual design and structural engineering were taught in separate tracks. Information didn't always cross over. Joanna only knew I had received a few solid offers. She had no idea that those offers had already placed me on par with, or perhaps even ahead of, him. Chapter 13. When Kevin saw the news, his face reportedly went pale. He even went to ask our former professor. The same me he once dismissed as all style, no substance, was now shining brightly under another sky. Once confirmed, he fell into a rare silence. Simon told me that Kevin used to love posting on WeChat, showing off the awards he and Joanna won together, or team photos from their projects. Hey, didn't he used to mock you for having family backing? Simon asked as my forum had already been running for 2 days. He had just found out, and sent a congratulatory flower basket, wishing me great success. I don't remember, I said, shaking my head. Simon didn't push it. He was more concerned about something else. James, Joanna, Hasn't come to see you. Before he could finish the sentence, she appeared in the distance. Joanna had come. I saw her standing in the forum's lounge area. Compared to our first reunion, she was now even thinner, her complexion sallow and dull. She stood silently in front of the large poster of my keynote speech, motionless, like a weathered statue. She stood there so long that a staff member began to take notice. "Why doesn't she come inside?" Simon asked. I replied quietly, "Maybe she doesn't agree with my design philosophy." A long time ago, Joanna had stopped paying attention to my work. She didn't know which of my projects had won awards, didn't know how many people were discussing my ideas, and she certainly didn't know how many sleepless nights I'd endured just to stand shoulder to shoulder with her. A week later, the forum concluded successfully, thanks to Professor Wu's promotion. I reconnected with many familiar faces during the event. That night, after the closing ceremony, an old friend messaged me, "James, now that the forum's over, are you heading back to the States?" "Yeah, flight's the day after tomorrow. Think you'll come back?" "We'll see. Then let's meet up tomorrow. Who knows when we'll see you again." There was a hint of melancholy in his words. I thought about it and agreed, after sending my flight info to Lillian. The next day, I went to the gathering, but in the private room. Besides a few old classmates, Kevin was there too. When I saw him, I instinctively frowned. The host quickly tried to smooth things over. "James, it's been years, you look even more impressive now." They made small talk. Using my forum success as the opening topic, out of courtesy, I replied politely, trying to ignore Kevin's presence. But I soon realized the conversation kept circling back, intentionally or not, to Joanna. Sensing something was off, I interrupted. "If you have something to say, just say it." Everyone froze. Someone finally spoke. "James, could you go see Joanna?" "Joanna? What now?" They explained. After leaving the forum that day, Joanna completely broke down. She had lost all interest in work. She wouldn't even leave her home. It was like she had reverted to the state she was in back when I first left. "We know you're still upset about the past, but we all grew up together. And seeing you and Joanna end up like this, it's hard for us too," one of them said gently. He was also the one who had urged me to visit her in the hospital. But now, again and again, the same requests. I was tired. I wasn't upset. Who waste 7 years of their life being angry? I had long since moved on from Joanna. "You've got the wrong person. I'm not anyone to Joanna, and from now on, don't come to me with her problems." I stood to leave. Kevin, who had been silent the whole time, suddenly exploded. "James, are you really this heartless? You've already punished her for 7 years. Do you really need her to die before you're satisfied?" I was stunned by Kevin's sharp voice. I looked around the room. No one refuted him. At that moment, I understood. I had come to this gathering out of old friendship, but they had already taken Joanna and Kevin's side. Somewhere during these 7 years. Chapter 14. "James, we mean no harm. We just can't bear to see Joanna like this. If we had any other way, we wouldn't be bothering you. Do you know what Joanna's been through these past 7 years? If she hadn't held on all this time, you might not have even seen her again. Joanna's heart truly belongs to you. All these years, she's been waiting for you." Everyone spoke at once. Their words echoed the same tired sentiments I'd seen repeated in the alumni chat. Kevin was already in tears. Resentment, blame, pleading. Every emotion twisted across his face. Kevin cried, "James, even if you don't care about her, I do. You've won. I'm begging you. Just talk to her. I swear, I'll never bother you again." My temples pulsed. The name, Joanna, buzzed incessantly in my head. And just then, my phone buzzed. A message from Lillian popped up. "Got it. Hubby, waiting for you to come home." Attached was a photo of her grinning while holding our corgi. I couldn't help but smile. The scene in front of me, though, felt utterly absurd. I looked at them all and replied coldly, "I'm not going." "Why not?" "I'm married." The room fell into sudden silence. Expressions went blank, then turned to shock. Someone instinctively looked behind me. Joanna. I turned around. There she was, her face pale as paper, swaying on her feet. I had gotten married 2 years ago. It had been low profile, very few people knew. Partly because I was abroad, partly because Lillian's identity was sensitive. If they had really tried, they could have found clues buried in the financial news. My return trip this time had been tightly scheduled. Aside from seeing a few necessary mentors and old friends, I hadn't intended to bring it up, not even to Joanna. It didn't seem necessary. Our paths were now worlds apart. No reason to meet again. I hadn't expected such a scene right before leaving. Those who had just moments ago been pressuring me to give Joanna a chance fell completely silent. The world finally went quiet. Only Joanna remained. It was as if something clicked in her mind. Her eyes were locked on my bare ring finger. I didn't disappoint her. I reached into my bag and slowly pulled out my ring. Sliding it on, the platinum band covered the faint mark that remained. And in that instant, Joanna's tears spilled over uncontrollably. Why? Her voice cracked. You said, you'd only ever marry me. She repeated the words like a broken chant. When she looked up at me again, her eyes were red and bloodshot. You lied to me, didn't you, James? Say something, tell me you were lying. Joanna's appearance was heartbreaking. No one spoke, not even me. Yes, I had said that, but it was a promise made in our youth, naive and untested by reality. Just like the way she once scribbled, Joanna and James forever, all over her sketchbook. She hadn't kept it, and I didn't escape it either. Joanna wept so hard she trembled. At some point, the private room had emptied, leaving just the two of us. She stumbled forward, grabbing the edge of my coat, nearly collapsing to her knees. James, I regret it. I really regret it. Joanna's words tumbled out. She said that if she had known what would happen, she never would have given that spot to Kevin. Chapter 15. I let out a sigh. You're wrong, Joanna. I didn't marry someone out of spite. It's because I don't love you anymore. There's something you probably don't know. I came back to find you. Joanna's bloodshot eyes snapped up, her tear-soaked lashes trembling violently. I looked into her eyes calmly. 3 months after I left the country, I regretted it too. How could 20 years of love be abandoned just like that? During that time, loneliness and longing drowned me like a freezing tide. I couldn't sleep. Night after night, I cried into my pillow. I hated myself for storming off in anger. The pain of missing her wrapped around me like vines, tight, suffocating. I fantasized about Joanna suddenly appearing beneath my apartment window. But every time I opened my eyes, all I saw was the cold foreign dawn. Until one day, I couldn't bear it anymore and bought a ticket home. I still remember, it was a stormy night. After over 10 hours of long-haul flying, I arrived at the Starry River Design Institute soaked to the bone. And what I saw was her and Kevin, kissing in a dim corner of the parking garage, their bodies pressed close together, clinging as if they'd never let go. I can't even recall whether the chill that sank into my bones came from the freezing rain, or from my heart turning cold for good. Joanna, you say you missed me, but in these 7 years, you never once tried to reach out. You never asked how I survived in a foreign country, never cared what I was doing, and unlike me, who crossed oceans to see you, you never tried to find me, not even once. You didn't love me. You loved the version of yourself that loved me deeply. Joanna let out a wounded, animal-like cry. Her throat tightened, and she rasped in near breakdown. No, that's not true. After that night, my world finally returned to peace. No one disturbed me again. On the day I left, Simon came to the airport to see me off. His eyes were red. Who knows when we'll meet again after this? If you miss me, just fly over. Ticket and hotel are on me. Simon laughed through his tears. He looked at me, hesitating to speak. What is it? He shook his head. Nothing, just feels like time is really cruel. Cruel how? I didn't ask. I smiled, hugged him, and turned toward the security gate. Before boarding, I received a selfie from Lillian at the gate. Hubby, waiting for you at the gate. In the photo, she was holding my welcome gift, a giant stuffed corgi. I couldn't help but smile. And after that, the next time I heard anything about Joanna was the news of her death. They said she stayed up for days working on a bid proposal and died suddenly of cardiac arrest. As for Kevin, without Joanna, Starry River no longer meant anything to him. One night, he drove drunk, crashed off an overpass, and has been in a coma ever since. An old classmate messaged me, James, will you come back for Joanna's funeral? No, that was the final time my name and Joanna's were ever mentioned together. After that, 1,000 miles of mountains and seas. No more reunions with old friends.